Wow, Ramon, a lot of people have been emailing blog@infusionsoft.com about Ignition.
Love it. Let's check it out and see what's up.
Here's one. Dear Ellis, you're so smart and funny. I love seeing a strong woman hosting the show.
Nice. Hey, here's one from Chicago, man. Dear Ellis. Yeah, hey, well, this is to you also, Ellis. Dear Ellis, thank you so much for your last show. You helped grow my business by 20%. That's validation.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Let's see. Dear Ellis, thanks for being a great representative for smart women in tech and the entrepreneurial space.
Not bad. Let's look at, Dear Ellis, Dear Ellis, Dear Ellis, Dear Ellis, Dear Ellis, Dear Ellis, Dear Ellis. Ellis, looks like about 447 emails are all written for you.
Wow. You'll get them next time, Ramon.
Hey, you know what? Thanks. Welcome to the Ignition Show by Infusionsoft, where we answer one question from one small business owner to help you grow your business. I'm Ramon Ray.
And I'm Ellis Friedman.
And Ellis, please tell us, how can people reach the Ignition Show?
They can reach us by emailing blog@infusionsoft.com.
So let's get to it. Ellis, what is our one question of the day?
Our one question of the day is from Greg. Now that I've hired a couple of teams and a few dozen people at my company, I find I'm still having trouble letting go of all the responsibilities and day-to-day tasks that I used to handle. I don't want to be a micromanager, and I want to be able to work on my business at a higher level, but it's hard to let go. How can I be a good and effective delegator?
Wow, that is an awesome question, like the $60 million question people say.
Right. I would say, Greg, just make Ramon do everything.
Absolutely. I'm available, Greg. But thankfully, Ellis, we don't have to answer that question.
Right.
We have with us today Lynn Perkins, who's the founder of UrbanSitter. Lynn, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, what is your answer for Greg?
My answer for Greg, I wish it was just a quick answer, but I think I would say start small. Start by delegating tasks that can be separated down into smaller components so that you can start to build trust for the people that are working for you, and also they can start to learn your work style and what's expected.
Love it.
So how do you know that like your delegation is moving in the right direction, that it's being successful and you can start delegating bigger things? How do you know?
I think the first time you want to be very candid with the person you're delegating to and say, listen, this is the first time we're working on something like this together. Why don't we start this one small? Here's what I'm hoping. Start by telling them what you want the end result to be. Make sure you're really clear in communicating with them and letting them know what you hope the outcome is. That way they know what the expectations are. And then break the problem or break the project into different components and agree to check in with them after the first component. And tell them, hey, I expect that you're gonna make mistakes this first time, we'll get through this one together. And I think showing them that encouragement along the way and making sure that you're checking in and giving them good feedback as they go through the process will really help to build that relationship.
What is your guidance, Lynn, on knowing what to delegate, or rather I should say, who to delegate to? Meaning I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that every employee or every person in a small business is not made for responsibility or to be delegated to. So how do you find out who you should be delegating to?
I think that's a really good point. And I think the first thing you want to do is look at your team and look at their strengths and weaknesses. So not only the roles that they're in today, but you're going to be asking them to do new things, which is really great. That's how you retain employees and you get them to educate and become better in their careers. But start by looking at their strengths and weaknesses and pick a task or something that you're delegating that matches that person's strength. And with that, I would say making sure that you find people who are exhibiting communication skills and able to surface up questions when they have them so that you know that you're going to be getting feedback from them if they get stuck along the way.
What are your thoughts, Lynn, concerning, you're delegating something to someone, you've tasked them with doing it, maybe it didn't come out the way you would normally do it. It's not wrong, but how did you find that in the growth of your company? You asked Bob or Janice to do something and then it wasn't, wait a minute, I didn't do it this way for the last 4 or 5 years slaving away, but maybe it's better.
Right.
Or not. How do you deal with
that?
that?
No, that's true. And I think you have to, as somebody who's a manager, you have to take a step back and say, okay, all of the work that's being done in this company is not going to come back the way I would have done it. And you know what? That's actually a good thing. I should be hiring in people who are owning areas where they have more expertise and better knowledge than I do. Or I'm delegating to people who have the bandwidth to actually learn how to do something in a way that I haven't. So I'll just give you a funny anecdote. So when I hired in the woman who runs our operations and finance, she did a great job getting up to speed for me, and let's say 2 weeks later, she came back to me with a quarterly report and said, I know this is going to look different than how you've done it in the past, but I think this is actually the next step and where we need to take it. And there was a piece of me that obviously initially is a little bit offended, like, oh shoot, I didn't do it the best way. But then I had to say, you know what, no. Given the resources we had at the time, I did the best I could with those priorities. And I brought the right person in. She was willing to take it to the next step. And you have to kind of put your ego aside. And if someone brings work to you that's clearly done in a way that isn't correct, then you do need to have that conversation with them and say, hey, let me show you some templates of what I've used in the past. Or, I was hoping that I would also see this additional piece from you, and giving them that support and making them understand that it's okay that you made a mistake on this one, and this is how I'd like to see it done next time. Give them another chance.
So what would you say are qualities that make someone an effective delegator?
An effective delegator, I think the first thing would be recognizing what you're delegating. Like, are you delegating something that's right for that person's skill set? So the worst thing I could do would be to set you up for failure by giving you something without enough tools, resources, or something outside of your skill set. So making sure. Another thing, it's really tempting when you have people who you can delegate to give them the things that you least want to do. But you need to ask yourself, is this something that the company has either seen me do or would feel that I was capable of doing? Because what you don't want to do is be perceived as the person who's just sort of shoving off the stuff, the trash. You want to show that you're giving people interesting projects. So I think making sure that the project is right-sized and sort of right skill set for the person you're giving it to.
Right.
And I'd probably start with something that's a little bit shorter in time frame. So pick things that are either reoccurring in nature where they're done in increments, or something that maybe you're doing a project hand in hand with that person, so they're seeing your work style as you go. Then the next time you give them a little bit more, so by the time they're on project number 3, they're running the show. Make sure that you're giving them the correct increments and the correct type of work to get going.
Is that, what do you say to people, Lynn, that as far as the training? My point is that you're training the person to do something, but you're also learning yourself. So what has been your experience as you're training someone to do the work that they need to learn, but what do you need to learn as well?
That's really a good question. I mean, number one, before you even get to the training part, make sure that you're delegating to people at a time when your workload isn't so chaotic that you can't give them that time for training. I think that's a big step. Number one, make sure you have time for training. Number two, I think when you're training them, you need to, in advance, sort of learn what they've done in the past and where their skill sets lie today. So you can tell them, okay, pull on these skills that you've used in the past. This part's going to be new. I think as a trainer, one of the things that you can also do is you can set out a plan and say, I was thinking that we would meet every week. Does this work for you? And then Ellis might say to me, actually, I think it's going to take me a couple weeks to get through this first phase. I'd rather dive into it myself and then come back to you. So I think as much as I'm maybe training Ellis, she's also training me to let me know, no, I think I've got this first part handled. I'd be ready to meet in a couple weeks. So I think you need to be open to that feedback and really lay out a plan for the person as you delegate to them so that they know there's a structure there.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like mutual training.
Mutual
right?
training.
You train them, but they need to train you to work best with them.
Right, exactly.
Wow, Lynn, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for watching The Ignition Show, a weekly show by Infusionsoft, where we take one question and help one small business grow their business. My name is Ramon Ray and Ellis. Please tell us, how can people reach The Ignition Show?
You can reach us at blog@infusionsoft.com.
Don't forget to watch past and upcoming episodes at ignitionshow.com.